space alien bastards on their way here with an imminent arrival time, and how we're all going to face them. And then apparently these space alien bastards, how they know this, I'm really uncertain. I didn't get a grasp of how they know these guys are motivations, etc. From the book. But in any event, they are of the opinion that we face a big nasty, and they're going to try and do something about it. So just because we have a catastrophe between now and June does not mean the end of the species. It may mean the end of the species. We're just unaware of the final outcome, so to speak. Any given individual's survival of the upcoming events are going to be entirely within their own karma. Now, I personally think that part of the events are going to be something we've been looking at for a long time, which is the expansion of the planet and the cracking of the Pacific Plate. I now think anyway, that there's real evidence showing that the northern Pacific Plate will participate, that we'll get a big crack up here. This is not good for the islands that are between the northern Pacific Plate crack. These islands include Midway, Hawaii, the Marquesas, all of the Carolines. It'll probably flow that direction is the way I'm thinking, simply because of the rotation of the Earth. It'll more or less go from the pole area to the south, but it'll twist off to the west as the planet is rotating. And so it won't be directly from the north. It'll probably be from the northeast in most cases, and would seem to be the major component that would affect these islands. And it'll also affect the west coast of the U.S. I don't think it'll do Alaska too much damage, because it'll be on the other side of that. There will be some, but not as bad as the tsunami that'll rake down the coast here. This is a supposition. If the plate cracks as we think, in the place that I think, and I have evidence that I can go into, if you really care about it, it's kind of moot in terms of we won't know until it happens. But if that is the case, then the California coast and the Oregon coast and the Washington coast, down through to Baja, likely, are going to not be good places to be. The strike for the United States, for the North America, will be oblique, in that the angle will be from the northwest for us, and headed down to the southeast. The major portion of that thrust will probably be from southern Washington coast into, say, northern Baja, simply because the coast of the U.S. curves out and will meet this thing. So some areas of California, even though the tsunami will be further advanced and have lost some energy by the time it gets there, because they will be reaching out in a higher angle into the angle of incidence of the wave force itself, they will get a higher level of wave than we'll see here in Washington or Oregon. Something to be advised. The Pacific Plate crack may be part of the May, prior to June 1 events. It may occur this year for all I know, and just may be incidental and even a small precursor to a larger event, but it doesn't seem to be good in any event. So, and it may be that they'll thwart this. Maybe the 15 and his group of breakaway civilization guys with all these really cool technologies will go on out there and, gently ease apart the plate, and we won't have these incidents. However, that at the moment doesn't seem all that likely. But it does bear thinking about. We have data showing that people are alive and are helping themselves and coming out of this thing in next June. So let's go right into our major component of things, now that we've wasted a whole lot of time here. The world citizenship deal struck me as a really good idea, for a lot of reasons. Not only right now, in the present time, with the Zionists going batshit and killing a lot of innocent Semitic people in Palestine, and murdering people right and left everywhere, actually, but also after the event. This is sort of a dual strategy kind of thing. If the government goes away, if the nation-state government that we have now goes away and all these people go in their hidey holes, it would be nice when they came out of their hidey holes that the rest of humanity was fully organized and took away their power and their nation-state status as they're coming out. Saying, yeah, you all can come on out and join us, but, we ain't going to have this nation-state domination bullshit anymore. Well, one way out of that is to think about how humans operate. So let's think about a few things here. Humans operate first at the individual level, and then humans operate at a family level, and then humans operate at a clan or a tribe or a community level, and And then they operate at the nation state level. Now, if you're an individual in a family and there's a squabble within that family, what happens? Well, these days, modern society in the Americas, somebody from quote authority shows up. One of your neighbors calls the cops, and there's a domestic dispute. Well, basically, that is the community coming on in and setting the behavior standards for the family. So this is how this works. We've got these like 4 levels: the individual, family, community, and nation. At each level higher than the level below is the level in which domination is asserted as to behavior standards. And that's really all we can enforce. We can't change mindsets or any of this kind of stuff. All we can do is enforce basic behavior standards. So, if we note that the Child Protective Services is a threat, if you're too loud with your domestic dispute, and all of this, there's all these various levels at which the community involves itself with the nation state in enforcing the behavior standards for the family below it. And you'll even see the families sometimes threaten the individual, usually errant teenager, with with involvement with the community and or the nation state. In other words, if you keep misbehaving, I'm going to, throw you to Child Protective Services, something like that. So each layer below the layer above it uses that layer as a psychological tool as well as a physical threat for behavior control. And that's really all it is. Now, nation states have a real problem because there is nothing above the nation states to control their behavior. We're all on a single planet. Now, if we were on multiple planets and the nation states were fighting it out in the asteroid belt, who would care? Who would give a rat's ass except for the asteroids? But in our case, we wouldn't, because it wouldn't be affecting us. But our whole planet is so tightly bound that any activity from any of these errant nation states affects all of us continuously and individually. We're all, especially with modern communications, ever since the invention of the telegraph and the first in 1844, the first transcontinental telegraphs, and then by the late 1850s, the beginning of the global state with the international cables under the ocean. Now, from that period on, humanity was different in the same way that the internet has made us different, and we can't tolerate this behavior anymore. It's no longer a case of violence in a family. It's no longer a case of violence in a community. We've now got the issue of violence at the nation-state level, and nothing to enforce behavior standards. The problem is with these damn nasty nation-states is they've got like serious damn weapons. 16,000 megatons minimum in existence in the region of the Middle East alone, so that they could easily destroy most of the planet just if, the Russians, Chinese, and all these people decided, okay, that's enough. We're going to start chucking this stuff right and left. So basically my contention is we need something. We need something to enforce the minimum accepted behavior standards on the nation states. And that the way to do that, in my opinion, is at a global level, at a world level, since the whole idea of, space aliens, what David Wilcock calls intergalactic management, enforcing our behavior is bullshit. A space alien, even if they were capable of doing so, would not meddle. If they do come on in, it's for their agenda, not for ours. And you can be quite sure of that. And that's what 15 and the guys in the Sands of Time book are all whipped up about, is the thought that there might be these space aliens coming on in for their own damn agenda, about to kick our butts. But in the meantime, caught between the solar system shifting and the unknown survival of our species and then the dreaded space aliens, we also have to deal with the pedophilic bunch of bastard bankster Zionist fuckers that control the planet. Well, here's the thing. We can't do anything about solar system, and until they show up here, we can't kick the aliens in the nuts and send them home. But there is one thing we can do, and that is we can set limits on the behavior in nation states and the pedophilic bastards that use the nation states to keep their power bases going. And we can do so in a rather easy way, and that is by basically opting out. because you don't have to participate with the nation-state madness. True, they claim they own you, but that claim in their own mind and in their legal authority and in everything they've got going for them is entirely based on documentary fiction, on fiction at various different levels, piled on fiction, piled on abstraction, and so on. And what they have done is they have masked what has been described as common law among humans with various forms of documentation overlaid upon documentation until everybody's got so confused you can't do anything. And then they have all this mind control and all the other crap going on, which prevents us from ever really examining the issues that are thwarting our progress as a species. So I sat around a long time, and I know we've got problems coming with these corpo-fascist bastards and their vision of the planet, and besides which they owe me a great debt of pain because of their behavior, in which I won't go into. And so I decided, well, you know, we got a few months here. Let's take a stick and poke these guys and see what we can do. So one way to do this is to find a really good stick. One of the things I'd thought about was, well, it's quite true that if one stands up and declares oneself to be a live being, I won't use the Latin, we won't go into that, but if you declare yourself to be a live being with the blood flowing and the lungs breathing and all of that, and not subject to nor surety for the legal fiction that was created at the time of your birth, by the registration process in court, then all kinds of interesting things happen. So we have demonstrable evidence that the nasty, evil bastard pedophilic fuckers that run the planet, that infiltrated Freemasonry, that control the Vatican, that are at the core of the British royal family, and that run the aristocracy within the United States, all of these guys are hugely, hugely vulnerable in one area, and that is documentation. It's kind of like the Vogons in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Was Douglas Adams telling us something? That, without documentation, those guys don't do a damn thing. World's going to end, are about to be shot. Oh, sorry, can't step aside. Got to have the documentation for evasive maneuvers. And that's basically the view that I got of all these powerful people and the mechanisms that work it. Well, I started doing some research, and there were other people that had also arrived at the same series of conclusions. And in 1948, this guy by the name of Gary Davis had reached this set of conclusions that I have, and then come to the conclusion as well that documentation is their vulnerability, and so he started creating his own and insisting that they accept it under their own rules. And here's the thing. They created a whole series of rules that force them to accept it. And because they are so documentation bound, they're like the Vogons. They look at the documentation, they behave it as though it's actually a real thing there. And they're trapped in their own little mindset. And so in 1948, the United Nations made this Declaration of Human Rights that Gary Davis used as the basis for the world government of world citizens. And here's the thing. I'm not asking anybody to join the world government. I don't give a rat's ass what you do. But if you want a way out, I think this one works. And here's why. There's no board of directors on this world government. There's no Congress. There's no president that can tell you to do anything. There's no extra individual authority over the world citizen. At the very top of the pyramid is the individual world citizen. And there's a whole lot of power vested in that individual world citizen. If you read through Gary's books and look at the philosophical underpinning for why and how this organization, which is a self-organizing collective, works, you will note there's no attempt to coerce. This is a service organization. It is not service to self. It is service to others, service to the planet. But it is doing so with a rational basis, and that rational basis is common human law. If you want to investigate that, go and start looking at the Franco Collins stuff off of my site. There's a lot of people talking about common law and how to set yourself up as a common law citizen and so behave. Now, see, here's the beauty of it. Right now, the nation states have us all in a nasty position. So, for instance, I'm sitting here in the United States and I'm saying that, the Queen of England is a badly dressed, pedophile and or an apologist for her husband and son who are pedophiles and her whole family of pedophiles. And beyond that, these people exist because of crime, that they are stealing, they produce nothing on the planet, they're worse than parasites.